Okay, so another hello and welcome to everyone to this poetic extravaganza. I'm really thrilled that we got such a great turnout. I'm very grateful for your support. When I first thought of this idea, which I think was only 10 days ago or something, I thought it might just be me, Nikki and Laura reading, which obviously would have been lovely, but it's really brilliant to have so many people from the Beir Bua stable here and people wanting to get involved, and also to all those who are listening in, and thank you for supporting us. So I'm sure all Beir Bua authors appreciate your support, and I think it's a testament to the strength of the work, its variety, its impact, and I think the community that's been created by Beir Bua as a publisher. And I think that is a significant legacy of Michelle's sort of vision and energy for the press. And that's something that I'm certainly grateful for. Tonight is about celebrating that community and our creativity. And we're going to do that with, I think now 25 writers, which is amazing, 25, with a huge range of work and brilliance. I mean, it's, you know, I mean, to be honest, I just arranged this for myself because I wanted to hear all of your work. So a couple of boring admin things. First, let me just quickly check who's still in the waiting room. Sorry for that. A couple of quick boring admin things. I'm recording, as you know. I'm going to make it available on YouTube, on my channel, hopefully by the end of the week. If you want to turn your cameras off, obviously for that reason, do so. But please keep them on if you're reading, unless you can't for any reason. Keep your mic muted if you're not reading, of course, but do use the chat. So the chat's there. Lots of people are dropping comments. Feel free to chat to each other, drop links, you know, feedback on the work that you just heard, all of that kind of stuff, which would be great. If you do need closed captions, that they're at the bottom of the screen on Zoom, the CC button. If you're on a mobile, then I think that's probably in settings somewhere. If you're reading and you feel that you're reading something that maybe is a little bit raw, let's say, and it maybe needs content warning, then maybe be mindful of the people who are listening and do that beforehand. I'll leave that to your sort of judgment. So we're going to go straight through, no interval, because experimental poetry, you know, doesn't stop for comfort breaks. And I'm going to do it in alphabetical order because that appeals to me. I might have my camera off from time to time so I can grab some dinner, and obviously feel free to do the same if we've got 90 minutes and we're try not to overrun too much. So that's what I call enough of an intro. Let's get on with the show. So I'm not going to read bios out. I will drop those into the chat whilst people are reading, so you have less of me talking and more of our fantastic set of readers here. So first up, I am delighted, I think, if I can see that she's here. Jane, are you here yet?
Yes.
Yes, I thought I'd seen you. You're first. Spotlight you and take it away.
Okay, good evening, everybody, and thank you for this amazing opportunity. I've recorded and timed my poems, so it should be 4 minutes 29 altogether. There's 4 short poems, 2 are from Edible, the third one could have been inedible but wasn't, and the 4th one is a new poem. So I'll start, and these first 2 are from Edible. On the idiosyncrasies of heritage. My glorious godmother, your oldest sister Annie, passed years before you. I adopted her milkless, sugarless tea habit as my own, share her middle name, her childless status. We apologise for our grief, or rather the display of it. After we lost you, beloved Patricia Ellen, your favourite heady scented freesias, lilac, lemon, white, became my preferred flowers. I peel a rectangle of grief from the bones. One of your 14 siblings, your last surviving sister, was Brenda, wisdom blessed, my second mum, until cancer claimed her too. I'd always hated the ugly taste of the ginger biscuit she loved. Now they're my favourites. Grief swells, sonorous, lit. The 3 of you so close, strong, vibrant women, a rare and glittering constellation. In the mirror, I see you all in me, this strange genetic history. Thank you. The next one's called Long Wet Weekend in a Posh Bristol Flat, circa 1994/him. She wanted them, specifically him, to want her. She wanted to be the she, they, he wanted. She wanted to be wanted until the want pumped and spurted and squirted and spilled and squished and squashed and tore and teased and ripped and devoured and gorged, want trickling and dribbling inside out all night, never sleeping, every gash, slit, opening, used. And Monday morning she could hardly walk, but they sang of her insatiable want and wanted more, sore, raw, crimson with their want, because she wanted him to see she was the one, the only one, the one he wanted most, wanting his want, just wanting him to love only her. Next one is Evanescence, which is in the same world as Edible. When I was a child, the sky was always full of stars and starlings and swallows and swifts. I was bigger then, rose-tinted, and she was forest green, oozing laundered gold within my grasp, a gasp, a withering, a leaving. It goes deep, like chocolate, and I am smaller now, a shrinking pinprick, unpicking slit silk silt, fermenting oil slick feathers and spitting rainbows. And the last one, called It's Just a Stupid, Cheesy, Sentimental Song. So why am I crying? Blinking onion sting tears, tearing, searing my skinned heart, while I scrub the kitchen counter, Dettol wipes, after the Tesco delivery, and familiar words drum my brain, looping, repeating. How could this happen? 3 years today since COVID took you. And I'm still scared to leave the house because it hasn't gone away, despite pretending. We can't all choose a different story. And yours came to a sudden, shocking end. Taken, 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 one life, many lives. Take, sad vocals. Letting go, must, should. How can you? The words too resonant, close, listening, remembering it wrong or always misheard, because the voice on the radio sings fail. Of course, it rhymes with pale, yet I always thought it was fade. Fade, fading again as the song ends, and I realise it was one of the many things I got wrong when your light still shone brightly. Thank you.
That was wonderful, Jane. Thank you so much. Really fantastic to hear your work. I'm not necessarily going to ask people to unmute and clap every time because that gets a bit weird. But if people want to, feel free. But you'll see there's lots of really lovely messages in the chat. So thank you so much for sharing your work and for going first. That was great.
Thank you.
So next up we have Gary Barwin and Gregory Betts, whose Beir Bua book, I'm sure they'll tell us, it was a collaboration, The Fabulous Op. So let me find them and mute them. I know you're there. Sorry, unmute them.
I'm good.
And Greg, where have you gone?
Hiding.
There we go. Take it away.
There we are. Thanks. We're delighted to be here. Our book is now with that bookmark, The Fabulous Op, which we wrote together. Greg, do you want to say about how what this is, other than hard-won, searing poetry that will change everyone's life?
One word at a time. It is a Beir Bua book, and so I think we need to start by acknowledging Michelle. And just, I know it's been a challenging period, but I want to speak for myself and say that I've got lots of gratitude for the work she's done and
Absolutely.
building something. And it's nice to see everybody here. All these names are actually familiar at this point. So it's wonderful to be in this moment, even if we're under sort of strange circumstances. I do have a lot of gratitude to Michelle, and I'd like to start with that. This book was actually a collaborative effort too. We started with our social media feeds, and we invited all of our social media contacts to send us their favorite poetry lines. And we got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of responses, and we took those and we pooled them together and started creating poems, and then editing them and editing them and editing them even further until it became a kind of epigenetic twist. And you can feel some of the calling of the old canon built into it, but it's now something entirely uncanonical, although you can get it on Amazon. Yes.
There you are, poem among 20 snowy trees, the moving Isian. There you are, the cruelest math, maxing out desire. Tree, the rippled moth, melting light into desire. Tree, you are a poem, scar or tree crinolines, moving the matchstick of desire. Star or tree editating the omission you desire. Your celerity, the memory, the cruelest math, the crumpled myth, the author a cruel mouth.
I park upon a tree, dark and requesting all since letters be turned, and all afternoon, snow night, darkness eye, blackbird lost, recently opened lilacs, wending ready, ready, ready to everything unsilenced.
How only as cloud, oh, poem has erasured, beauty like your sleeping head, listing my love, turning and turning the wedding. True minds see lovely looms and dreams outside.
These sentences, each fails speech. Feel better. A sad nothing was woods, these in the valley of utterly surly bonds. Earth overflows. I am sad, oh say I am sad, to say, oh.
Valley, your house, because I, for death go heartbroken. Strange things go midnight. Blooms, your bedded tree. Go, I lost, if only this. Go, take light, ghost worded.
See itself. You. Sees itself. Is. The atom. The fish. A meadow. Shrub. Out amidst shadowy stars. Stairs. Geomorphic rivers. Landscapes.
The bare gray eye is loats, highs, snowy mountains, or just after. It gets past Ed own, rounds us, weeping with its lovely rouse.
Very thing that signifies grow old, let us hollow in our candid operations. Let us wing hewn eye, loud they, night they, do not scream, do not scroll, hopping mishap pines. Let us humble torches, chapter yellow snakes of morning, lest everything that signifies growl.
Word, water, This poem called itself Sanke Twilight's Glare. This poem left we gleaming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that was amazing. Thanks, guys. That was absolutely fantastic. What a performance. I feel like I just really want to see what that looks like on the page. Sadly, that's difficult to do now. Books may not be easily available. Cool. Very musical and very Dada. Marcus was commenting there. Thank you so much for joining us, Gary. I know you need to go soon, but so delighted that we could hear your work. Thank you. Next up, I mean, the great thing about this is that everyone's work is all going to be completely different. We're all going to have such an amazing mix of takes on contemporary poetry, which is brilliant. So next up, we have Laura BESLEY. Laura, I know you're there. I'm going to find your bio and drop it in the chat. But once you're ready, I will spotlight you. Where are we? Laura, where have you gone? Too many people. I've lost you, Laura. She disappeared.
I think she's been having trouble with her internet. It might be that.
Oh no, oh dear.
So maybe move on and go back. Or...
Yeah, no problem, no problem. I didn't see her disappear. Okay, so next up, M.W. BEWICK. I know that you were here. I just saw you a second ago.
I am here. Yeah.
Hello, where are you? I need to find you. Let me spotlight you.
Thank you.
I'll let you take it away, and I'll drop your details in the chat for people.
Thanks, everyone. I'm not quite sure how to follow that from up there in Ontario. I'm actually going to read some new stuff, which is kind of built out of what I was doing with Beir Bua Press a couple of years ago in my pamphlet there, the Zircon Ferries. But I'm restless, so I've kind of moved on a little bit. Two pieces, and they're everything's looking for homes. So if anyone knows of homes, then do let me know. This is this first is called Malibu Sunset Tanning Studio. Does anyone here remember Margaret? Broccoli on the side of the plate, that kayak on a summer day, and always with a pen. Who was it went to Mexico, wrecked in the desert, stained glass, golf, and drugs? What a way to live. And someday soon the thought of the details will make us all laugh. And if we focus right, we'll just about be ready, like gazing through a window and seeing the glass. It's worth noting as a matter of course that some of the trees have failed, small ones only partially in leaf. Another winter gone. You are counting rhizomes needing warmth, specially credited series of words, as lichen asks for consensus and the wind hasn't stopped for days, and she was usually downriver, sleeves up, booted and well drilled for bicycle tricks. Did you ask her? You know what she would say. The value's what you want. The price is what you owe. And then in the spirit and straw of the week, she fell, became an institution. Everyone, it seemed, had tipped a winner, and the mime troops came with their jive, mapped the speed of east and west, baked the goods for a few nights of tawdry mishap. Was Margaret at the helm? Bless. The infinite shape of gravity mutating as the bona fide brothers hollered back. Some are only in it for the heckles, and the spell is cast. The world's joys played out for a lucky tryst in Hunstanton. A small town thing. Played all the pubs and got the fuck out. Aye, Margaret, wherever you may find her. I should have told you about that small word there, shouldn't I? And then a second poem from the end of this long sequence that I've been writing, which now amounts to about 50 poems, a lot of them prose poems. And this is always was a results-driven business. Finally, the experiment was collapsing, and new sound experiences were shielded from our ears. Everyone accepted the cutting-edge tech, but wanted the old songs, the old results. The mawkish weather was the only connection with the past, and everything else was changed. The family albums were gone, and that was so hard to bear. It was all so cold. And so A left for Australia, and B stayed longer at the gym. No one had learned anything, and soon it would be a time for the country, dogs, babies, oscillators, generators, amplification. Intuitive centres of expression were still to be approved, and previous goals of connection looked set to be reanimated, foundational, and strong. The objections to the experiment had been made coherently. It was as if the objections had been the objective all along. Everyone had played their part. Everyone got paid. And the word used in summary was controversial. It had been a controversial exercise. Someone maybe said brave. All work was brave. All language was brave. Love was braver still. And no one could change a bit of this, which meant everything was normalised and just so. Tomorrow was Tuesday, and the forecast was for showers. Someone had to make the dinner. Was that the barn owl hooting again somewhere out by the woods? The principles were all intact. Thank you very much.
Oh, that was lovely. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed that. That definitely needs to find a home. So I look forward to seeing that. And I know there's lots of music fans and performers amongst us. I have to say I really enjoyed your End of Music pamphlet as well. So good to hear that themes coming out. Thank you so much for sharing that. Laura, I think I saw that you were back. I don't know if you're back sufficiently with working internet to go, or if you want to wait a little bit.
I don't know. Shall we just try it and see what happens?
Okay, are you sure? We can come back to you if you prefer.
No.
I need to find you again now. There's so many people. Where have you gone?
I'm here.
Where are you? Oh, there you are. I'm so sorry.
Sorry.
So many people. There we go. Laura, take it away.
Thank you. So my collection that came out with Beir Bua is actually microfiction and not poetry. And it's split into 9 sections. It's called Unnatural Elements. So it's split into 9 natural elements, like salt and sea and sand and stone. And because this is a celebration evening, I tried to pick some stories that were less sad, which was harder than you might think. So I'm going to read a couple of stories from the last section, which is stone, and they don't have titles, mainly because I don't like thinking of titles. So I thought, I'll just make it easy for myself. So they're just numbered. So this is number 2 in stone. They were young, but not carefree. Never that. She, the rich man's daughter, he, the cook's son. He gifted her a rose quartz pendant. She wore it every day until she married a man more suitable. Once smooth, a crack now runs the length of the heart-shaped stone, splitting it apart. This is number 3. Sun gave Earth and Moon her blessing to marry. After a few years, Moon said she wanted more independence. You can't, Earth said. You're nothing without me. You wouldn't even exist without me. Moon broke apart, floated away. She may be in pieces, but she was free. This is number 4. If I've never been to a place, can I miss it? The boy says, balancing another stone onto the Jenga jutting stack. Bernie, his slate-coloured dog, tilts his head, sighs. Yes, the boy said, I thought so too. He places a small pebble on the summit of his construction, watches it wobble and fall. And this is number 5. I put my stone on the table for show and tell. For keeping safe, I say. None of the faces staring at me look like mine. Baba told me to hold it if I was scared. When bombs fell or Mama cried because we were hungry, I clung to my stone. This new country, this new school is scary. Later that day, Miss Clark is teaching us about Stonehenge. The girl sitting next to me smiles. Like the stones, she says, pointing at the gap between her teeth, like both of us. What's so different after all? Our friendship cemented. Thank you.
Laura, that was beautiful and really, really lovely. Lovely to hear. It's always lovely to hear people read their own work. I think that's what makes this so special and such a celebration. Thank you. I'm glad that your internet was working sufficiently well. It's great to hear.
Thank you. And because of my internet crisis, I forgot to thank you for organising this. So thank you very much for
just glad that we've got so many people here to share this. It's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so next up we have Oisin Breen. Please forgive me, all the Irish colleagues in the room, if I'm mispronouncing. Oisin is travelling at the moment, but has shared a short video. So this is going to test my ability to work the technical functions of YouTube, Zoom. So let me get that video running for you.
And action.
Evening, everybody. Sorry I can't make it. I'm meandering around New York with my wonderful lady, who is being so kind as to record me. So, love from New York. I'm going to read you one piece from our now defunct books. So it's from Lily's The Deathbed of Time. For those of you who are going back with Downingfield, it's amazing, and I look forward to sharing a new stable with you, and thanks to JP Seabright for organising this event. So, without further ado, I'm going to read the first section of the love song Anarua. Harahow, harahow, rahal, harahow, 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 rahal. All poetry is someliness, and it is shattering. Like the ringing out of arias, harahow, hung out from the balcony. Songs, they are like the ringing out of arias, like red sheets, falsettos from the window flung. Songs, they are built to crescendo, so as to lick themselves clean, their skirts lifted while their necks craned, so as to tongue the instep of their soliloquous feet, which we know only as shadows of images left behind disturbances of the guise of waves of a sound. My harama, we wahama, my harama, we wahama, whooptama, my harama, we wahama, whooptama, we sound. Gorge on our shedding skin. All that has happened, all this that has happened is new. It is new, and you and I have again differing personalities become. Synecdoches of one another, heavenly choral somnambulas, filling the air with singular melancholias, like the ringing out of arias. And this is how we begin again. We begin again with euphorias, glorias, moratoria, and our footsteps, which just now hit a beat. My harama, we whooptama, and like the ringing out of arias. This is how we begin again. My harama. And we share the same set of keys to the same set of doors, those same set of dreams, baleful ones, those soulful ones, those long-lost meaningful ones, dreams which gather yet in parliaments, dreams that gather under the benevolent eye of a slumbering god, a god whose pet crows hiss like snakes, and we share the same grave, yet that which we do not share, it is flowering. We do not share an epitaph. And what we do not share, it is flowering. We do not share an epitaph, and mine is dressed only so as to assert independence. Mine, and the certainty of that laughter I last saw on the mountains when I pretended to be a deer and slipped when you shouted at me while all I thought of was wetting my thirsty beak. And And it is a sad thing to think on before we begin again. It is sad to think that we imagined I am, and yet here I am, and here you are, spectral grinning, making daisy chains from the past tense and in verse, throwing shapely flowers, a sepia existence that may never be expunged. Yet here we are, and the gods, they are benevolent, bloody ashen, maybe, in sackcloth, yes, but with calloused fingers finding yet another way to bridle time for another ring around the row, Diana. Yet here I am in the city where aeroplanes sound. There's the street sweepers of the morning, there's the boiler's din and rigor mortis sets, in my fantasies at least, and I turn to thoughts of birth and being born, and I solidify one creature, divine and elementary, yet here I am, plucking at the silhouettes of moments, watching roots again stir, and the names of things previously not particular to me, retooled and in a new garb of haunting, settle beneath my bones, and the weak forces that hold my universe together quicken, quivering, cognizant to that reordering power, the hushed lilt of love, and it is rampant. A new theodicy, rewritten only so as to supersede its former self. And here I am, my haram away, to sing in the new, crushingly, with benevolent opposition, to shatter the psalm of past kindliness. Thank you.
Well, that was amazing. I had the joy of watching that twice, you know, and it was so fantastic that that we can share share videos for those who can't be here and kind of make this a true community kind of celebration. So I will just put Ashin's details in the chat because I didn't do that. And next up, it is Richard. So Richard, while you have 30 seconds to prepare yourself, let me just share Ashin's details so I don't forget.
Right, do you want me to pause, or do you want me to go for it?
Let me spotlight you, and then you're good to go.
Oh yeah, very good. It falls on me to follow Racine, so that's exciting. But yeah, just to echo what everyone's been saying, thank you to JP for organising this. I've long thought that we're at a golden age of contemporary writing in England, and I think what this sort of an event shows is that's not just happening on a national scale; it's happening on an international scale. And I'm very grateful to be a part of it, and very grateful to be put out through Beir Bua. I'm going to read from The Voice Without. I've given this book away online with a couple of other things, and I'll drop the details in the thingy afterwards. But yeah, the Voice Without. Oh. Mm. 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 Nah. 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 you, 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 mm, 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 ah, and yeah. Mm, 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 Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you. And I actually forgot to unmute myself, so that was my reinterpretation of your piece. I love watching you perform the work. So it was really fantastic to do that. Drop details in the chat. I know because I'm on your Substack newsletter that you've just given away some of your work. So it'd be great for others to explore that if they've not come across it before. Okay, up next we have Marian. Marian, I saw you arrive at some point. There you are. Hello. You know, I'm just loving the sort of serendipitous variety of doing this alphabetically rather than trying to program it, because you can just see just how varied and brilliant all this work is. So Marian, if you want to unmute yourself, and I'll spotlight you.
Hi, and thanks to JP, and thanks to all of you. I'm absolutely fascinated by this interplay of voice and sound and page and image. It's just extraordinary that these books have produced such a variety. I have to say, I have to show off, I do have a small collection. So quite a few of your words are here in my hands, and I've enjoyed your books, but also enjoyed and will continue to enjoy seeing you perform your work. My book's quite different. It's a collection of essays on mathematical forms and poetry. And one of the interesting things is how the roots of our constrained poetry in particular often go back years, decades, centuries, millennia. So I'm only going to read one poem, which is a lipogram. Now, I'm sure most of you know a lipogram is a poem or piece of writing where you only use a certain number of letters from the alphabet. The first lipogram was written that we know of dates from the 6th century BC, and it was written by a musician who left out in all his work the letter sigma, the letter S, presumably because he didn't like the sound of it in his songs. So my lipogram also goes back to ancient Greece, because it's a lipogram based on the story of Scylla and Charybdis from the Odyssey, from Homer's Odyssey, where that part where Odysseus and his men have to navigate between the many-headed monster Scylla on the one hand of a narrow strait, and on the other hand there's a whirlpool, deadly whirlpool called Charybdis. So the poem only uses the letters of Scylla and Charybdis, and also, just to show quickly, you can see it tries to emulate that sense of the constraint, the physical constraint in the formatting. Scylla and Charybdis. Scylla, a hiss, a snarl, a cry. Scaly hybrid hydra, hid in a rancid lair, rabidly raids all. Charybdis, hail, rain, birds chirr in briny air, chill abyss burls daily, slays all. Sail by, inch by inch, dry land calls. Thank you.
Marian, that was lovely. Thank you so much. And it's lovely to see you and to hear you read. I always enjoy hearing you read. Yeah, such a fantastic little book with so much in it. All right, so moving on to our next reader, again, you know, wildly different, which is what I'm loving so much about this, is MOYA Costello. MOYA, I know you are there somewhere. I've got to look for you. There we go. MOYA, are you are you east or west coast of Australia? Melbourne, is it?
The east, but down south in Tasmania.
Okay,
it's an island off an island.
All right, lovely to have you with us. Take it away. I will drop details in the chat while you read.
So I'm reading from the lands of the Panalapana peoples of Lutruwita, which is the north central coast of Tasmania. In the background is what I'm reading about. It's Hickspechia pinnatifolia, family Proteaceae, or the red bobblenut. Unfortunately, the seeds aren't showing, but the seeds are really amongst the most interesting things in these plant specimens. So the bobblenut, the prose poem is called All Manner Of. Thin and fat, juvenile and middle-aged, spread, sharp once and now wave point, tiny hooks thorn-like to capture as if evolved from scary to style, pin-pointed many crests or prickly toothed wing, its many-legged feeted, very numerous in long, inflorescence not indeterminate, but rather caterpillar compounded. Its length a long ship, the common axis many upright oared, and its hull ruched, flounces, fruit strips of plum, mango and peach, fig and fire sticks. Those lizard-skinned leaves and the hairy-headed seed and white almond resting on a leather base. Some dried blood, raw-meated walnut husk with dust trim at its base wall, smoothed by finger swirl. A secret chocolate heart of layers, white and dark, its precious dark plum, red rinsed, shell, battle embellished, armor plate, massive protection against all manner of imagined battering. a stern heart, a shield ribald with courage, a dome of deep satisfaction. Ferrero Rocher chocolate with internal balls doubling contrast. Miniature piñatas. Leaves sanguine turmeric tangerine, thin-veined, thin. The vessel of the heart, a bobble nut, north of the Belgian River, New South Wales, across the border to Springbrook, Queensland. Thank you.
Moya, thank you so much for that. It was lovely to hear you read. And actually, I think we shared a launch, didn't we? Or we shared a reading at the time when your book came out. So next up is Nikki Dudley. Yeah, sorry, I should say Cormac is not able to join us this evening, unfortunately. I'll drop his details in the chat so people have links to his work and perhaps want to connect with him on social media. But now over to Nikki. Nikki, did you want to screen share?
No, it should be all right, I think.
Oh.
Nothing too visual, but you know.
All right, let me spotlight you.
Oh, uh-oh.
There we go.
So it's a bit weird looking at my face. But yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you to JP. This is amazing, so brilliant, so much talent in the room. And you're all awesome. I mean, it's just like one hit after another. It's brilliant. And yeah, real shame about Beir Bua, but hopefully one thing that comes out of this is a great community of amazing writers. And inspired by one of my books published by them, I thought a quote from John Keats would be useful. A thing of beauty is a joy forever, and all of your books will be a joy for me because I've got so many of them on my shelves, and I'm going to keep looking at them as well. So I shall begin now and stop rambling on. So I actually have two books of Beir Bua. The first one is called I Better Let You Go, which is about my nan Greenie and experiences of her dementia. Tonight I'm going to read just one from this, and then I think I'm going to read some of the John Keats one, because I think maybe the John Keats one needs a bit more love. But I'm going to read this one for Greenie. So this one's called To Let Go Isn't Simple. You said the money is safe. The water tasted off, and these people were coming in, strangers and actors. I wrote letters to the waterboard. Did you fall in love at first sight? Ireland is far away from your body. I remember the story in the car as we drove. The statue never moved, did it? Maybe you missed those winding roads. I think about your flat and you, removed. The rooms were all connected. We were connected, and I didn't want undercover police officers and penguins at the end. To let go. Some people never rang. You kept asking if we loved you. Did we love you? Did you ever believe? Fuck the money. She gave me a bracelet that didn't cost much. I ignored the hisses at your funeral. I said your name, and your name is this. The bracelet felt like your ashes solidified. Things are comfortable now. He would tell you you were right. Did he think it as he lay, dying? And how did you feel it? I carry you with me. The water runs through. I look for you across London. Where does it go? There's a seat at the front of the bus. I saved it for you. So that's my poem for Greenie. I'm only going to read one for Greenie today. Although she's awesome, and if you want to check it out, I still have copies. And thank you for anyone who's read it already, because it always means a lot to me, especially when people read that one, because it feels like a bit of Greenie is going out into the world, which makes me quite happy. I'm going to read a bit from my other one with Beir Bua as well, called Fanny Be Mine. And before you think it's another book all about John Keats, it's actually more about their relationship from a modern lens. So it's actually more about how it would be if he met Fanny today. So I'm going to read the first poem in it, just so it gives you a bit of context and you'll kind of get where it's going. So it's called a modern love story. At Fanny Fabulous, will you be a fan of me? Sorry, that sounded so much better in my head. I have 1,289 followers on Twitter. I can improve your algorithms, OFC. I would like all your photos on Insta. I have 401 followers on there. I'll make TikTok videos dedicated to you. People will be like, OMG, LMAO, but I won't care. You know, I read poems on YouTube too. Why don't you subscribe? Spoiler, some of them are about you. Let's link our socials, Fanny. Let's put In a Relationship on Facebook. Does anyone still use it? Let's tag each other in photos and comments. Let's get synced online. People would totally ship us, but IRL. Fanny, dear Fanny, are you signed up to Tinder? We can delete our profiles together. Let's swipe right in person. Please at me soon. My DMs are always open for you. At hopelessromantic/John. So as you can see, it's a rather silly take on their relationship from a modern day. So yeah, essentially it's all about him meeting Fanny and how he's a little bit over the top. So here is another poem about that. It's called On Hampstead Heath, No One Can Hear You Scream. So, did I see love walking down the stairs? Did I see my love walking with a man last week under the trees on Hampstead Heath? And when I saw love walking with a man on Hampstead Heath under the trees last week, did I walk down the stairs? Did I see love in a hut with water and a crust that tastes like ashes? I am already ashes under your feet, isn't that right? And when I saw your crusts in your hands, did I believe you were actually eating them? The question is, do you drink water because you like it or because you live in a hut? Did you see me, my better self, recoil on the hill alone without love at my feet, with love walking away from me and in step with some other figure? And who recoiled their feet at this figure when you walked in step without me and never looked back? And was it even you on Hampstead Heath last week? Okay, and another fun thing I did for this collection was I took some of John Keats's letters to Fanny and I redacted them. And this is no lie, this one is actually from one of his letters. So, my dear Fanny, you had better not have a pleasant walk today. I shall follow you with my eyes over the heath. Acid, I shall make you a present of it. J. Keats. P.S. I have no excuse, no excuse. Forgive me. I am in deep love. You take possession of me, manifested at the first sight. In case of the worst, what hatred shall I have for another? Now, I don't know if I'm running out of time, JP, but I do have one more I could read if you like.
Go for it. Yeah. Go for it. Need more Dudley in our lives.
Not sure about that, but thank you. All right, this one's a nice one to end on. Some people might have heard this before, so apologies, but having dull opiates with you too late, obviously after Frank O'Hara. Being in love with you was even more fun than dull opiates and walks on Hampstead Heath and a nightingale's song. Partly because of your intolerable feet, partly because those feet were not intolerable when they walked with me, partly because of your love for poor poets, partly because your mum hated me, partly because you wrote me goodnight notes that I would later burn, and no one would know your side of the story now, but you would keep my letters as if I were important to you, in between the trees, when we walked, never quite touching, never consummating whatever this was. I stared at you, and I would rather have stared at you than the autumnal landscape from atop a hill while wandering through lifeless trees, not thinking about my death, except when I remembered you would marry someone else. And then I thought about Chapman's Homer and the shore. And thank goodness I could show you these things before you had to wear black all the time. And people judged you for your intolerable feet in those intolerable shoes, just as I did at first. But now I know your feet are beautiful. It's just, I didn't think properly at first. And now I lament that I wasted the little time we had thinking of your faults. And maybe rereading Chapman's Homer, I didn't see the faults there too. And I should have seen mine. And this is why I'm telling you about this. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nikki. Really great to hear from both of those. Brilliant. So we are about halfway through in terms of our readers. Clearly, we're not halfway through in terms of time, so that's just a heads up that we are likely to run over. But given this is such a unique event that's unlikely to ever be repeated, well, you know, actually we could do this every year, couldn't we? I don't want to curtail people reading too much. So if there is anyone who's yet to read that needs to leave by a certain time, let me know, and I can kind of jig some things around as far as possible. But next up is SASCHA. So I'm really excited that I could persuade SASCHA to come out of hiding, and not only because we've been having a sort of sporadic kind of correspondence over the last couple of years, more sporadic I think on my side, but because SASCHA's was the very first Beir Bua publication, 21 Computations, which also I had the privilege to see early and to blurb. I imagine you're going to talk about all the stuff that you've been doing since then, but I'll hand over to you, SASCHA. It's great to see you.
Great to see you all as well. Yeah, I gave up on Twitter a while ago, so seeing the lot of you is really great. Thanks, JP, for putting this all together. And I think I want to piggyback off of some of the stuff that some of you have been saying as we move through this. One of the great things about doing this is that that as we follow each other in alphabetical order, we are also sort of juxtaposing things that look like they're compatible, but they really aren't. And I think following up on Nikki's work is not only great for me because I really like it, but also because I think one of the things that her poems just highlighted is that it's very different to be a little bit extra on social media as opposed to through letters. And that's the theme, or, you know, handwritten letters, paper letters. And I think that's the theme of my little thing, 21 Computations. So yeah, so I wanted to start with the thank you for JP, of course, for organizing this, and a second thank you, of course, to Michelle for all the work that went into Beir Bua. And then I have a third thank you, which is the reading that I would like to do from the 21 Computations, because as we all talk into our computers and yet are also together whilst talking into our computers, of course, what I would like to do is I want to say thank you to the devices that we're doing this on, and the 21 Computations are a bit of a thank you to those devices. And I would like to read a short bit from the introduction to the book, just so you know that what the thing is all about, and then I want to give you a bit of a taste of what the 21 Computations do. So this is from the intro. Early computer handbooks, written in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, are a uniquely intriguing kind of literature. Having been written in an era before the paradigm of user-friendliness and before the advent of graphic interfaces, it may at times appear as though these early handbooks are more intended to make their readers adjust to the hardware before them than vice versa. Yet this is exactly what makes them so intriguing. Little inclined to bend to the user's will and convenience, early computing machines rather present series of challenges. Mastering them means adjusting to them. It is not that man tames the machine tames man. Early computers were and are ongoing negotiations of the human-machine boundary. Their handbooks, consequently, are documentations of just such negotiations. After all, what lurks beneath the surface of early computing machines is in many ways still what lurks beneath ours. And if this is the case, have we really tamed our computing machines, or have they tamed us? And I'm not just saying this because I am reading into my computing machine and thereby hoping to reach all of you, but also because the text that I'm about to read to you, which is part of the book itself, is taken from scraps of computing machine handbooks from the 1950s and 1960s. I have a bit of a collection of those, and I've taken some of their texts and I've turned them into a sort of juxtaposition, a sort of a jumbled up version of what's going on there, ultimately always asking, if computing machines help us produce intelligibility, to what extent is the computing machine itself a form of intelligibility? And this one is called shifting. Absent a carry, 10 equals 0. Context-free grammar can be constructed for a handle and precedence over the right boundary of term if they normal form. In first, it if they over the second, a handle. Can straddle the follows that a term takes precedence be put in a straddle the second takes any context-free language. Precedence grammar can left boundary of thus the first. Absent a carry, 100 equals 0. Is placed into indirect or indirect. Absolute, 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 bit are affected the 0 page of the operation, the accumulator, the argument with the carry flag that subtracts from borrow. The result, the sign flag for the microprocessor assembly code instruction by the result. Bit, the 0 data specified by flag bit and absent a carry, 1000 equals 0. Rotation, where the carry bit of the central processing unit is considered a 9th high order bit for the 8-bit register being rotated. Absent a carry, everything equals 0. Is performed bit is generally from storage or in general registers, left to right, whereas arithmetic processing done either in right to left. By bit from logical operations, processing. Processing may be processing error, error occurrence. Absent a carry, only the one manifests. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sasha. Excuse me, I was just eating a little bit of dinner. But thank you so much. That was fantastic to hear that. And I love your work. I've dropped your details in the chat so people can kind of listen to your latest podcast and find out more about the fantastic ideas and essays that you've been writing to explore this further. Okay, so next up, it's Teo Eve. Let me just find you and spotlight you. There you are. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for organising this, JP. It's fantastic to be a part of it. Fantastic to have this sort of like archive of work. Not even halfway through the readers yet, and seeing the sheer variety on offer is just testament to how much Beir Bua did for the poetry and experimental writing community generally. It's great to follow NIKKI and Sasha as well, two of my favourite writers, both of whom actually beloved my first book. I'm going to be reading from my Beir Bua book today, the introduction to On Shaving, which is sort of half autofiction, or a third autofiction, a third experimental poetry, and a third sort of critical evaluation into what autofiction entails. The author is dead. So the story goes. But perhaps it is no surprise that in this age of constant digital documentation, of easy access to an author's actual thoughts and feelings via a proliferation of tweets, interviews, opinions shared, of constant and necessary discussions about their inability to separate art from artist, the author has resurrected themselves, learned to speak for the fiction that is the life they use their body for, rather than simply in the abstracted and authorial voice of literature. Autofiction is a vital genre that allows individuals to rage against the bars that society has placed around them, to investigate anecdotally the prejudices of the world. If fiction is a window to other souls, other lived experiences, other points of view, autofiction is a vast open wall, a view into the house's entirety, rather than a stolen glimpse of furniture through smudged glass. Having said that, the component fiction in the name of the genre does a lot of work. Perhaps it is something to do with our age's penchant for irony, fear of sincerity. Autofiction and auto-theory blend essay and poetry with autobiography, yes, forming genres that are altogether more entertaining and, I do not want to say accessible, because the question of accessible to whom always follows, bound as it is with assumptions of who can read difficult literature, but more immediate than straightforward academic accounts, while simultaneously denying and revealing the personal, in an attempt to show a truth that exists beyond the individual. Autofiction is prototypical of a certain type of lived experience, though self-aware enough to know that there is never one universal truth. It is an offering, here is my story, but also an invitation. Now, tell me yours. Thank you.
Oh, that was fantastic, Teo, and what a wonderful way to end that reading. Great to hear you read, and great to have you with us. If you want to drop other details in the chat, I've got put your bio in, but please do feel free to link to your fantastic Penteract book. And I know there's another one coming. Is it next year or later this year?
Next year. I'm not sure when next year, but something next year.
Okay. Very exciting. Look forward to that. So next up, we have another short video from Mike Ferguson, who wasn't able again to join us live. So let me get that up, and then I'll put his details in the chat afterwards. Mike also wanted me to clarify that it's the consolations of philosophy that he's referring to. So you'll hear when you hear him speak.
Hello, fellow BB peers. Thanks to JP for organizing this celebration. People's upset over this situation will vary, and my regards for that. I just want to express my thanks to Michelle for her enthusiasm and energy in putting out so much poetry in such a short space of time. My text, and I have many of yours and have enjoyed them, is "And Therefore." It's a collection of found poems based on a range of philosophical texts. The reading I'm going to do is taken from one of these, and I think it reflects on many of the feelings people will be having and have expressed. The one line on the transience of art isn't promoting that, but it does acknowledge its pertinence. It's a cut-up, and it's taken from Pleasure's Sting, section 8, The Consolidation of Philosophy by Boethius. Why excel to cease when perfect? Consider heavens as admired hardships. Honor doubt as a motion of manner. Might excellences feign whole beauty? All infinitude to promise obstructions. Things to bloom conclude perishable, to admire art as transience. Those that are gone surpass the should, that thy fading abide by whatever thou art. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
And thank you very much to Mike for that lovely reading and lovely sentiment, which I think so many of us share. I'll put his details in the chat so you can find out more about him. And then it's over to Nisha. Nisha, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, perfectly. Yeah.
So, sorry, just to check out to Lydia, is it okay if you maybe go after Nisha? That will probably be about, or a little bit later. You can tell me when we get there. Anyway, Nisha, apologies for that. A little bit of rearranging. Let me spotlight you, and then I'll shut up, and then we'd love to hear you read your work.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll echo what everyone else has said already to JP for organising this amazing night. I think it's such a wonderfully generous thing to do and lovely thing to do. So yeah, basically. I'll do the whole content warning thing for eating disorders, addiction and suicide. Unfortunately, I tried to get a variety from the book, but that also means there's a variety of content warnings. So yeah, the first poem, yeah, they're all from Implode Explode, which was published with Beir Bua. Yeah, and the first poem is Marshmallows. Yesterday, I bought marshmallows at the corner shop. The sky was spilled apple juice, and the day was closer than ants. At the till, bearded man asked, "Is your head screwed on right yet?" As though I was shampoo cap or faulty tyre, as though I didn't know the pain of bleeding. You were every meeting man on a motorbike. Paranoid, I skipped double yellows and crossed each zebra twice. I didn't tell Beard Man about the sweetness of marshmallows as they re-emerge, nude, or the way they float like candy rubber ducks in the six-splashed bowl. A man in leathers entered, and I hid behind the carnation milk. I did not want to be seen purchasing such sin on a Sunday. So that was from the implode section. The book was split into 2 sections, and the rest of these, there's 3, are from the explode section. 1 every 4 days. I think I was on the train when you slit your wrists, listening to Radiohead, musing melancholy, oblivious to the rivulets of blood, the last-minute doubts, the deleted texts. I'd seen you the day before, a smiling, pixelated face. We were going to dance the time warp. I don't know if I loved you, but you made me feel human. Sexy thing, all legs. 19, dynamite. They resurrected your ghost on Halloween, no kidding. Devils laughed and vomited into buckets. So many bones, very little flesh. I like to think of you wearing your bell staff, quietly dead and meringue stiff, white and unblooded. Who am I kidding? Your final violence ploughed into my stomach and left me mangled origami. Some wretched parade of grief. Unjustified, I felt, a mute drifting friend, no messages between us. Too distant for that last honour roll. You named who mattered and who didn't. That night, I sent my mother back to England and binged to remind myself I was alive. Even the pointless stars were daggers. The toilet glared in their pharmaceutical light. After the snot and the ferrous rage, after so many gluttonous, jerking afternoons, I stopped feeling your loss. I watched documentaries on suicide dry-eyed. I forgot the myriad damage and tied a half-hearted noose around my own neck, called it contagious. The family hated us for unknown reasons, and Russell Group Uni tossed your name into a scrap heap of other lost, delusional souls. Worked too hard, didn't work hard enough, insufficient even in death. They erased the word suicide and murmured, very sad, what a waste. Rang at-risk students, 2-minute phone call, then silence. We sang vigils for you in cluttered bedrooms, unlearned tears and grew babies in undisturbed wombs. Forgot how to love you. None of us thought of waste or potential or future. You were here and then you were gone. You blazed and we didn't care if you made it or not. Rather a third than a corpse. Rather a dropout than a corpse. The anorexic withered and pressed pictures of you. We loved you. We loved you. That's my friend Jack, and I am sad that's not going to be published, but I'm hoping Explode will have its own rebirth at some point, and I'm pleased it's been in the company of all these other amazing writers. So yes, I hate you for asking. The answer is yes. I reclined on the red leather sofa, cheeks pink and round as helium balloons, pupils shrinking into bloom, skin humming with pleasure. You asked if I was high and my breath caught in my throat like I'd swallowed a locket, like you were dragging chainmail out of my gullet. I hissed no, like something evil, and fixed my papery eyes on the opiate fuzz of the television screen. The lies fell soft as cherry blossom and crackled, ruby sparks in the hearth. The truth curled beside my mother's warm, forgiving arms. It panted as my chest rose and fell like a doomed civilization, and something soft squirmed beneath my sternum. A key twitched between the hollow bones and made music, as though I was a body and an instrument, nothing more. The pills clattered like broken crockery in my stomach, which was red as bloody sunsets and churning with acid. The moment passed, and the high ached in my throat, and your bruised smile was like a splinter I couldn't remove. And then there's just this little mini one. Wish. I would like to lock the doors to my lungs and breathe out all my smoke in one shadowy breath. I would like white roses and tramadol to numb the garrotting. I would like to lie coffin ready next to your grave with my eyes on the sun and nothing passing above me. I would like lanugo and ivy to overrun this wretched body. I would like to press my hips into one thin pill, illegal white. I would like to hold your hand and say it is okay, okay, okay. We are all broken keys. Thank you very much again.
Oh, thank you so much, Nisha. That was just incredible. I love your work, and I have no doubt we're going to see more of your poems, you know, live on in other collections elsewhere. So I'm so glad that you could join us, and it's always just brilliant to hear the poets read their work themselves. So thank you very much for that. So it's 10 to 9. We're not going to finish at 9 o'clock, as you probably gathered. So apologies for my poor timekeeping. But, you know, this is a celebration. I don't want to cut people off. I want us to have the opportunity to share our work. So we're going to keep going, if that's okay. I appreciate that some people might have to leave. Unfortunately, Paul has had to leave. If there are any other readers who have to leave at 9 o'clock or very soon after, please let me know and I will rearrange things. Otherwise, we will keep going. Yes, thank you, Paul. Sorry to miss you. I mean, or I can go. You can go now if you need to, because if you still want to read. Perhaps you're halfway out the door. Otherwise, it's Jeremy next. I think I saw you somewhere.
I'm here if you can hear me.
Hello. I'm trying to see you. Have you got your camera on?
I do.
Oh, hello. Sorry.
Hi. No problem.
I've got like this bank of people to look at. Apologies. Let me spotlight you and let you share your work with us. Thank you.
Oh, I'm spotlighted for myself as well. Okay. That's why everyone, every time you say that, they go, oh, okay, I understand now. Thanks so much, JP. This is really great. And really thanks everybody for being here. I mean, fellow writers and etc. This has really been a great way to get a taste of how great this press was. I share your feelings of gratitude, though I have to just be honest for a moment without being negative, is that I accidentally chose to drink tonight mort subite, sudden death, and I don't know exactly how that happened, but it really did. So I'm just going to read one poem from my Beir Bua book, End Item, which one of the great things about being with you all here is that it's a community in which I can write a book that is a kind of sits on its own. It doesn't have to like fit into some voice that is Jeremy Hawkins, which in former poetry communities I was a part of before, there was different expectations. This is a book that comes from a period of time where I was a journalist, a freelance journalist covering European affairs, and it was a kind of a terrible experience. And I decided to do some violence to my own production as a journalist in order to create this book. So I'm just going to read one poem called International Highlights, Stories from Around the Globe. And there'll be a couple pauses, but it should be pretty straightforward. So International Highlights, Stories from Around the Globe. I agree with something that is right. The forces of secularism, antibiotics for cats, industry, mythology, Latin, an octopus with several parts. I do not want the fairy to be traditionally resistant. I do not want to eat food for your diet, to die. Give me the right path. Mix my splendid apothecary pain. There is a culture where there is silence. Food, 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 and tea are allocated. Copies of mirror banknotes. Tin, stone, mouse. Hypnotist phones. According to the requirement of gardens, Shangush is silent. Evaluate the success of the mountains, which dive, prepared for a slow transition. A good man is not obliged to work for local duties and responsibility. Ask your husband about the problem. He angered the army. He sent the dead apostles. An error is easy to facilitate. The dead are dead. The dead are dead. They support the most valuable neighbors for the construction of the prison, for the disappointment of unbelievers, the radical geographical development of space. Pay attention to the fascination of the good news. Grand Slam Democratic Democracy Day, Capitalism for the Capitalization of Copenhagen. Everything is reveling in the UK. There are many opportunities to drink. However, the euro is sad. The communist spirit has changed the modernization of Germany. Turkey's resistance is a useful tool. The journalists were arrested by all means. These violations began in November. Moderators are still moving. Soldiers try to suspect the sacred revolt. You want racists to terrorize microchips? Say something. A strong voice is meaningful. We will call the Parliament of Aragon. Make sure the language is stronger to add a string, to reduce the necessary control measures, disable unreadable pages, add 740 soprano to the theater. Without the canola industry, coffee is a password. Find out while losing your milk. There is no rigorous violence in a strong public. However, some students are geographical traffickers. Their works are interesting images. There's a lot of damage to the productive dead who have the presence of Parliament. The judge is against bones. Burnt combustion brings conflict to save people from an explosion. The sharper wind. Real sounds variant on of the listener. Special authorizations in the garden. Animals are looking for you. Therefore you must die. Happy Hollywood toujours. Eline, 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 Eline. Thank you very much.
Oh, that was great, Jeremy. Thank you so much. And it's making me realise just how many Beir Bua books I actually don't have, certainly some of the more recent ones. So I feel like I've missed out, but at least we're getting to hear your work here. So thank you so much for joining us and for reading. Okay, so next up, Tom Jenks. I've seen you there amongst us. Let me find you and spotlight you. There we go. Tom, you were also quite one of the fairly early publications, weren't you?
I was, yeah. Thank you. So thank you, JP, for organising. Thanks for all the reading so far, and in advance for those to come. My Beir Bua book was Rhubarb, and I'm going to read the title piece. Stanley is up early cutting the rhubarb. He uses the heavy knife with the weathered handle. He curses when a stalk is stubborn or the knife cuts his thumb instead of the rhubarb. He invokes our Saviour and all the saints. He puts the rhubarb in the big pan with a lost lid. Some is for pies and crumbles. Some is for rhubarb jelly with ginger for flavour and lemon juice for the necessary pectin. The rest is for rhubarb gin. Stanley curses the rhubarb but loves rhubarb gin. I would say this was ironic, but irony is a difficult concept. What is edible is established by trial and error. Stanley himself established the rhubarb as edible. The orange flowers beneath the elms were established as inedible by one of the cats. Stanley ground up some petals and mixed them with mackerel. The cat went under the table and stayed there for a long time. He was thinking about its past. Stanley says that cats have a capacity for introspection that dogs lack. It's why Stanley prefers cats to dogs. Stanley visits friends over the fields. Windows glow through dark trees. He takes rhubarb gin and orange flowers. He picks a careful path skirting insuperable obstacles. He passes a convivial evening. The orange flowers go in a white jug. There is cake and brittle. Conversation concerns local issues such as the Restoration Fund, the problem of fouling, and how to prevent crown rot, which afflicts rhubarb when soil becomes waterlogged. Stanley says that local issues are the only important issues. Stanley's trip home takes longer. He proceeds with less caution. He blunders into thickets. I go out with a heavy knife to free him. He will curse and petition the fiends and fallen angels of hell. If the windows are open, you will hear laughter and music. If the windows are closed, there will just be my breathing, Stanley's breathing, and the swish of the heavy knife. Stanley may need reassurance. We will lay out the documents and consult them systematically. One of the cats will come close, sniff Stanley's breath and detect the unmistakable rhubarb. If Stanley needs a remedy, there is neutralizing cordial made with rhubarb tincture, cinnamon tincture, hydrastis tincture, and spirit of peppermint, or colon tonic made with Oregon grape, cayenne, lobelia, and rhubarb root. Rhubarb is used medicinally in countless cultures. The Chinese call rhubarb the great yellow. Rhubarb is pink mixed with green. No matter how much Stanley cuts it, the rhubarb grows back. It is perennial with abiding roots. It is entrenched under the hard standing. It is a rugged species. Stanley says that rhubarb will outlast us like the stars. People have puzzled over them for centuries. No one's come up with anything concrete. Thank you.
Fantastic, Tom. Thank you so much for reading that. Really good stuff. I'm conscious I'm wasting too much time by talking in between, so I will try and do as little of that as possible. We've got a short video next from James Knight, unless Lydia wants to jump in now, just giving her that chance. I don't know if she's there. Okay, otherwise I'm going to after the video. Okay, so thank you, Tom. I shall remove you from the spotlight and play James's brilliant video. His work, I'm always just completely bowled over by his work, so excited that you get to see this as well. Here we go.
Now listening, now dreaming. Blood blocks my dream. They built me around the cage, still mechanism, synaptic commune, roots brought, thrown out in spiral. Spiced flesh, a done break. Thousands of filaments over my into hot. Happy worm love. Dead face under the silk of and orgiastic puts a the slaughterhouse dyed pink. Dream laughing, then laughing again. Shots of black liquid lung. Our gore, our formless slop, never mind. The stretched light, blood, blood. Boy, monster. You blacked out. Are you? Tongue. This is love's garden. I'm. Fuck. Glass disasters. You. Mendacious. In hospitals. Neither closed grey trees nor down. My guide. god of geometric death. Statue of blood.
Amazing. So that was a visual kind of exploration of Blood Dreams, which was James's publication with Beir Bua. I'll just put his details in the chat. And actually, Lydia, if you're okay to read now, that would be ideal, because otherwise we have another video to show. So I think it's really fantastic to kind of break that up between videos and live.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Let me...
Hang on, no video. There we go.
Let me spotlight you. Fantastic.
I'm just going to read 2 from the book and 2 new ones, if that's okay. This was mine, Some Murmur. I wrote it during and after I had a baby in lockdown, so I'll just read. This one's called Baby Moon. We are going to space. We are strapped in, though she has fought against it. First she tried to take the ride untied, but the experts, they were for once united. There are so many checks and procedures. They say you can only live a thing when you've broken through the pain barrier. I said, send me, don't mess around, send me, I want to have this baby. So we all shut off on the date imposed, closed our eyes and fists and put our heads between our knees and held our noses and said that we were going to like it. There is no air up there, the food is dry and unfamiliar. You come out of your room at night, you orbit me whenever I'm holding it. I bat you off like I would tiny flies heading for the only source of water. And the spider, she is tidying up, that's right, and the fox who steals the chicken, she is only prepping what she needs for dinner. And the girl who goes to space says, if I don't make it, display me in this open coffin. All right, we say and sign, and we think nothing further of it. But all the little buttons had more colours than we had names, and all her little fingers were out there slamming on the quartz. And we saw the planets, how they all tried to resize, and the sharp red moon that yawned inside, and our hands were tied from having set the thing in motion. The gates to the park were open. I had carried home so much baby and sought to make it mine that the swarm of flies that was my child slipped from out my sight and out the sight of all these whirring satellites. When I looked up to the sky, I could have sworn I saw you making a harp out of bones. And this one is Transformation Anthem. I map my own body in the shower, desert, quarry, earthquake. I form swift new waterways, geysers of you, sporadic yet spectacular in every room. I am frozen into news item, an exclusive scoop. The limb is amputated, grows itself a whole new body. I walk as if I still have meaning, as if I still own the right to all this space. I am a hot air balloon landed, felled on its side, that state of billowy mid-deflation. I am a slim tarpaulin in a heavy gale. I leave the house, enter a topography of chance, eyeing the back streets for some morphology to call my own. I try to run, but all the little children on scooters are scooting so quickly away. And then I've got a newer one. There are no further insights. This intensity is my own. I feel all the things. I take my inside outness and put it on the bus. I drag it on and off the bus. I pull it along the pavement, carry its laptop, say, come on, get rough. What I want is everything on top of me and always, a body crushed. There is no doubt when my hands are held, when my mouth is stuffed. My daughter sat on my lap in the summer and put her legs exactly on my legs, and it comes close, it's something, but it is not enough. And one last one, which is really new, if that's okay. Something shocking is happening on Beetlejuice. Like this, pop, the lump is gone, you do believe me. Today I bought you a portal. You asked if mine was in the box. What do I do, Lyd? You want to be like me too a bit. I push 5 fingers through your heart and twist, like this. You say I'm yours, say yes, I will talk about anything. I will give you a croissant in Paris, a Salt Lake in Alicante, a Sega Mega Drive game in Osaka, the kind where no one wins. I will walk among your dreams with you, because in your dreams you tell me you are trying to explain this. In my dreams I'm a fish. The eyes are so bloated, the face hits the curve of the bowl, the eyes so desperately big, not turning away from whatever they are looking at, whatever it is, they can't ever turn away from it, like this. Thank you. Can I get back off now? Bye.
Yes, thank you so much, Lydia. I'm so glad that you could join us, and great to hear your work. I just read one of your poems today. It was in and other poems, so it's great to hear the new stuff as well as the brilliant older stuff.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So we've got another quick video, very short, this one from AJ Moore, and then I think we've got another 5 readers. So please hold on to hear everyone. And obviously I'm going to keep recording, and we'll be able to watch this fantastic event back if you do have to disappear. So let me do another share.
Hi, I'm AJ Moore. Thanks so much to JP for organising this event, this celebration, and I'm really sorry to miss it in person. I'm going to be reading 3 poems from my Beir Bua collection, Matriarchive, which is spelt with a silent P. Matriarchive was inspired by official family documents and by Jacques Derrida's essay Archive Fever, a Freudian impression, and it draws on materials such as birth certificates and death certificates relating to my grandmother, my great-aunt, my great-grandmother, and my great-great-grandmother. What became apparent during the course of the research was, rather than documenting their existence, these pieces of paper in reality undocumented the women through male-dominated bureaucratic language and archival convention. So the collection uses a lot of formal language and found materials in an attempt to subvert these processes and rewrite the archive of their lives. The first poem I'm going to read is called Arka, which is a term Derrida uses from the Greek meaning origin or beginning. Arka. Palimpsest of ENGEL and NIKKI, reclaimed rice paper legacy bonded with incrementally brittle tape. Amnesty of shredding discloses dad's side only. Ada's salvaged ID card uneasy among pallid fragments of Olive, Ivy, Olive and Annie, locked in gauche sepia. Origination, devolution, conclusion. Plot secured in perpetuity, £7, 10 shillings. Birthday telegrams partially redacted. It's not personal. Your lot have already been consigned to landfill, but the past was taking up so much room and you could really use the space. Artifact or ego, hoard or dump, emotionality or practicality, hybrid or compromise. Scan, digitize, catalogue souls. Boxed, released to Flatpack Sanctuary, Analog Stasis Solace, 3rd drawer down. Untitled 1872 to 1912. Unpaid piecework packaged in inherited sheets. Scarlet forensics laundered to bleached terracotta. Number 364, Olive, girl. Schedule 1, certified copy, birth of child, named in the subjoined. Rank or profession of father, springmaker. Required to be ascertained or proved for any purpose connected with the employment in labour. Capitalism's progeniture, rubber stamps, transient identity. Number 34, Ivy, girl. Schedule, certified copy, entry of birth. Rank or profession of father, engine fitter's labourer. Caught again at 40, hypertrophic scars retorn, praying for menostasis. Number 307, Olive, girl. Certificate of birth pursuant to the Births and Deaths Registration Acts 1836 to 1874. Rank or profession of father, leather belting repairer. Any person shall, on presenting written requisition and on payment of a fee of 6pence, be entitled, deleted, untitled, to obtain a certified, deleted, expurgated copy. The last poem I'm going to read is not based on any official documents, but is more my personal archive of memories of my grandmother Olive Story, who became Olive Moore. This is Curriculum Vitae. Broken sleep in Smith's cremolia and cotton gloves, and tea with 2 lumps, and some blessed with golden shred, and nummular dermatitis, and tell our Mike he needs a haircut, and consulate, and curlers in the Fox's biscuits tin, and penciled eyebrows, and hysterectomy, and vermilion lips, and Max Factor cream puff, and overboiled greens, and the weekly news, and tell our Mike he needs a haircut, and consulate, and grocery order on Wednesdays, and crossroads, and who has cancer now, and Silvercrin wash in, wash out Auburn, and the Pied Piper of Hamelin, and colostomy, and washing on Thursdays, and tell our Mike he needs a haircut, and consulate, and sale of the century, and Pyrex cups, and nicotine-scented leather, and nicotine-stained polystyrene, and beds on Fridays, and bells with warm water at Christmas, and tell our Mike he needs a haircut, and consulate, and angioplasty, failed. Thanks so much for listening and enjoy the rest of the event.
Thank you so much, AJ Moore. That was great. I will put her details in the chat. And next up is Mark Russell. Thank you so much. All those at the end of the alphabet who've been waiting so patiently. Mark, are you good to go? Let me spotlight you for everyone.
Hi, thanks JP, and reiterate thanks for this evening, and hello everyone. The events of my book, and like Lydia, I do have some should you need one. The events are set over the weekend of an academic conference in a hotel in a city very much like Glasgow. I'm going to just read two pieces from near the end on the Sunday morning. Swinging on the second floor. There was a buzz about the breakfast buffet. The queue felt like a bustling city centre during the marching season. She was fattening me up to take to market, but I escaped, one man said. I feel threatened by my former life. I'm afraid of my own ghost. He will not settle. He will not apologise, another man said. I felt a sharp jag in my thigh. I looked down on a woman holding a geometry drafting compass. Did you just stab me? She looked up. Don't be ridiculous, she said. But now that I have your attention, have you noticed how tall everybody is these days? People didn't used to be so tall. Do you think it's all the steroids? I caught sight of her name tag. Well, Dara, maybe you've got shorter. That's highly offensive, she said, and stabbed me in the other thigh. Nobody in the queue said anything. A tiny blood stain appeared through my trousers. Two strapping men in black trench coats appeared on either side of her. Dara, are you bothering this gentleman? I'm so sorry, sir, said the balder of the two balding men. The less bald man picked her up like a chihuahua and cradled her. She struggled a little and tried to stab him. His colleague quickly prized the compass from her. I want a biscuit, she said. Don't worry, sir. We sterilize all her compasses every hour on the hour. Dara was falling asleep in his arms. All right then, I said, I won't prosecute. He stared down at her. That's very considerate, he said without looking up. Do try the kedgeree this morning. It's exquisite. It reminds me of my days in the Foreign Office. The two men stepped lightly away, carrying the sleeping Dara to her biscuits. I couldn't help thinking she was now in very safe hands. The mobile bottom implant truck. I was returning to the conference after a short stroll to clear my mind when I came upon a queue of people in the overflow car park. What's going on? I said to a couple who seemed very excited. It's the mobile bottom implant truck, said the young woman. The what? I said. Isn't it great? Nobody knows when or where it will show up, the young man said. I'm sorry, but did you say bottom implant? I said. They laughed, nudging other people in the queue. You make it sound like you don't know what bottom implants are. I looked at the long line of people. It's certainly very popular, I said. Billy has finally agreed to have his done, the young woman said, reaching for his hand. I had mine 8 months ago. Do you like it? She turned and bent over. I wouldn't have noticed if you hadn't pointed it out, I said. They were aghast. Don't be sad, Tina, the young man said. Do you think I should ask for an upgrade? She said. An elderly woman pinched my arm. That was uncalled for, she said to me. I didn't mean to upset her, I said, rubbing my arm. Anyway, you're a little old for bottom implants, aren't you? I said to her. She pinched me again. It's not for me, it's for Raymond, she said. Who's Raymond? I said. A head popped out from inside her coat. Oh my God, I said. What the hell is that? It tried to leap from her grasp and bite me, but she was strong. Raymond is going to be the cutest big-bottomed terrier cross in all of Greater Manchester, aren't you, darling? She said, rubbing her nose on Raymond's. Does Raymond have any say in this? I said. Are you some kind of simpleton? She said. Raymond's just a dog. Raymond licked her chin. She looked like she might French kiss him. I would need a second breakfast to get over this. Thank you.
Oh, that was brilliant, Mark. Thank you so much. Really fantastic to hear that. And again, I'm just loving the range and the variety that we've got and the innovation. Thank you so much for joining us and waiting for the end. I think actually yours and Teo's one of the last most recent ones to be published, wasn't it? Was it February or March earlier this year? So it's actually me next, and I think if my alphabet is right, I'm actually not going to read anything, but I've made a very short video because I found on Monday some audio files that I had produced I guess about 18 months ago when my pamphlet first came out, and most of which I'd never done anything with. So I thought, okay, I need to do something with this. So I've cobbled together a fairly basic video with the audio files. Hope you'll forgive the simplicity, but I've been talking too much already, so it seemed like the best way to do it. My Beir Bua pamphlet is actually my debut pamphlet, so I'm particularly grateful to Michelle for taking this on, and for Beir Bua being my first published work. And I just want to say thanks to all of you for coming along and sharing your work. It's been really fantastic. Quick word on fragments. It is a sort of conceptual work that obviously it's subtitled An Anthology of Post-Anthropocene Poetry. Obviously, it's not an anthology in the conventional sense. It is all of my own work, but the concept is that in 100 or maybe only 50 or maybe only 20 years from now, there's a sort of global environmental collapse, and these are fragments of poetry that is found in the future by an archivist trying to piece together what happened from the sort of contemporaneous poetry that was written just before the collapse. That's the fall of the title. That's just to give you a little bit of context for the video. Anyway, I hope this works. Before the fall, gods, our own, made them known, no longer afraid, everything, explainable, understandable, chose not, follow, science, no excuse for ignorance, I remember these days, how quickly, when it comes, we forget, nothing, anymore, warnings, evidence was, why? Why did, why? Blood rust runs deep. Breakdown. Speech for needed of life. Too much content, unreal, fake, new, that last century, RIP of humanity. Many words, not voices, not enough.
I found my love when we still used, before it became, before our house and we. I found her crying, months of worry, weeks of waiting, of refilling buckets we never knew. I found my wife, a pool of white, a hand shaking. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. It's only milk, I said.
Hordes of locusts, burning rivers, birds drop, seas rise, dies. Like the Bible, the plague, another, end times, say others. It was, this is, after time. Okay, thank you for watching. If eco-apocalypse is your kind of thing, then I do have a few hard copies still available, so I will drop my details in the chat. And next up, it's Dr. Vic Shirley. Let me spotlight you. So glad
it's me.
It is you.
Hi. Yeah, I realise that. Obviously can't do alphabet as well as maths. Thank you to JP for organising this and for having such a soothing voice on this evening as well. I'm really enjoying JP's voice this evening. So I'm going to be reading from Grotesquerie for the Apocalypse, which is a particularly lovely cover by Michelle, I think. The book is in 3 different sort of sections, really. So the first section is very much sort of surreal, grotesque prose poems. And the final section are these kind of little sort of Daniel Kahne's little miniatures, apocalypse poems. And then the centre, the sort of centrepiece, the central sequence is called Kitty Ring. The Kitty Rings, and I've got 8 poems, and what they are found, it's found text, and what they are an exploration of Japanese cuteness and horror. And what I've done, those 2 extremes really interested me. So I took the text of Hello Kitty collected stories, and I sort of spliced it, mixed it up with the text of Koji Suzuki's horror novel Ring. So I divided the novel up, and I had 8 Hello Kitty stories, and I sort of mashed those up, and the results were very interesting sensation. There's no trigger warning, but it's not for the squeamish. I'm just going to read a couple of short ones. I'm going to read Grudge Trip and Virus Party. So Grudge Trip. Hello Kitty enjoyed executions. One day at school, she stabbed the hideous fax machine. When Hello Kitty returned home from school, Mama appeared as a grotesque figure and showed her an aroused demon she'd received in the mail. Hello Kitty had won a night of entwined limbs, some orgasm beers, and a trip to America. She invited her friends to come along. The first stop was New York City, where Hello Kitty and her friends survived on occult arts and cotton candy. Next up was Nantucket, where Hello Kitty admired the cuts and violent heavings. Then Florida, which was full of decay and menace. The next stop was Vermont, where there were enemies and erupting brains. Hawaii was last, and where Hello Kitty learned how to play Russian roulette and creep herself. When Hello Kitty arrived home, she told Mama and Mimi that it was their time to die. And this next one is Virus Party. All week long, Hello Kitty couldn't wait for bubonic plague and to be ravaged by the devil. Fifi was coming over for intense pain. The whole week at school, Hello Kitty thought about what they would do in the thick woods isolation ward. Should they drip blood, perform surgeries, dig up remains? Finally, the indiscriminate attack arrived. Hello Kitty woke up early and with Mimi's help, she picked up all her bones. When they were finished, they were very haunted. What should they do next? Hello Kitty, Fifi and Mimi decided to undulate in a ghastly shaft. Next, Fifi and Mimi helped Hello Kitty mix agonizing shrieks. Then they headed to the well where they played Watch the Body Slide into the Black Mouth. After all this fun, everyone was hungry. Mama asked Mimi and Hello Kitty to set the table for disease. Papa joined them right as the gaping wounds were ready. At the table, everyone discussed the murderous intent. What should they have for desperation? Mama suggested virus. Virus? Of course, a virus party was the best idea. At 3 o'clock, Fifi arrived with her infection and deep uncertainty. Hello Kitty got out the rope in darkness and they all got melancholy. Thank you.
That was fantastic, Vic. Thank you so much for that reading. I think we needed that after I'd sort of traumatized everyone with brought the tone down. So I'm so great we've got you. And then Marcus, and I think you're both reading, you're doing a live reading really soon. Is it this weekend? Do you want to put the details in the chat? Because I'm sure if people can come, they would love to hear more of both of your work. So Marcus, it is you up next. I should put your details in the chat. Let me spotlight you.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. I know it's been an amazing evening. I'm just going to read, read a few poems from here and one new one. This book, Puppy, is kind of like a puppy manual mashed in with lots of other things too. So here's a few from the end of the book. The all-seeing eye sits in the corner to ward off the spirits. I splay my hands. Other side up, she says. Her pet pig picks the cards. Inland, she says. I journey inland. Follow the backwards river, away from the sea. A horny toad sits before me. Ludic, says the toad. Lucid, I say. I sleep in the bushes with Puppy. Cold sand all around us. Nigh the river, we bend down to stretch together. Over the river, we gather kindling and sit around the ancient fire. We fling mud in our eyes. Spirit guide, come soon, I say. My puppy is hitting puberty. In my puberty years, I was miffed. I couldn't get the macking. Mandy was the master macker. How do you do it? I said. You've got to wear a thick skin, said Mandy. Think of yourself as a tiger, she said. A hurricane tiger. I thought of myself as a tiger. Whatsoever a person thinketh, that shall they become. I stripped my existence with black and orange clothing, but it didn't help my macking. Puppy is a natural macker. Nothing really phases her. Growling, yapping, friendly or unfriendly, playful or lethargic, she keeps macking. I order the poached egg. The egg arrives, but it's not on the menu. I apologize. There is a lot not on the menu. The menu is a map. The map is not the territory. You can only order what's on the menu, says the waiter. Then why did you bring it? I say. We can bring it, but you have to accept the consequences, says the waiter. What's the consequences? I say. Wait and see, says the waiter. And now just one new one. I went back to my birth name of Silcock. And so this is part of a new manuscript called Honeysop. And this poem is called Pretty Little Love Machine. My name is Teddy Ruxpin. Would you like to hear a story? Face like Lurgan spades, buckets of rain, sinking in your submarine. How would you like to breathe better? Don't look at yourself too long in the mirror. You'll melt there. My name is Teddy Ruxpin. Would you like to hear a story? When was the last time you spun Funkadelic? When was the last time you walked into purple-eyed monster trying not to look over your shoulder? Found frameless frames for the Polish posters. Found night sweats with the wheelie bins tipped over. My name is Teddy Ruxpin. Would you like to hear a story? In this self-same night, there is nothing swinging from the branches, nothing doing in the nothing night. Would you like a cookie? At the romance of sandcastles, waving your stick into the wind. Hipsters in the moonlight, hipsters in the moonlight, hair mopping the sea air, skanking the nightlight. My name is Teddy Ruxpin. Would you like to hear a story? Dirty wee skitter, dirty wee skitter. My name is Teddy Ruxpin. Would you like to hear a story? Slot the cassette into my back, holy rolling the Jesus milk, hippie hair dripping everywhere. Oh, pretty little love machine. Oh, animatronic. Oh, Silcock. Thanks.
That was wonderful, Marcus. Thank you so much. And again, it's just so brilliant to hear people read their work. You get so much more out of it. Thank you for joining us, particularly as I think you're an hour ahead, so it's even later for you. So we come to our final reading. Michael, are you still with us? And sorry you had to sit all the way to the end before we get to hear you.
Hello.
I can see you there.
Can you hear me okay?
Can, yes. Let me spotlight you. Where have you gone?
I'm here.
Hello.
Hello.
We
I
could
didn't
all see
realise
you.
I'd be last. I suppose it's an honour.
It is.
Alphabetised so lately. Thank you, JP. And nice to see you as well. I'm going to read just a couple of poems from this book called Superpositions. I don't know about anybody else, but I found it quite strange to go through these poems that I wrote going on 3 years ago now. They all seem kind of odd and alien, but there's a couple that stood out, so I'm going to read those ones. This is called What About the Dream States of Anemones? Which is a question I'm sure we've all considered from time to time. Shadows in the clearing, screams in the index, so used blind gap, so used to anti-spin of morning, repulsive, naked, wasted breath. The slash plays a role, touch punctuation, best the fan cam BTS, 18 plus, 2020, Animal Crossing, quarantine, Epstein, pattern myths, feel rain, suckle, feast compendiums, necks, ankles, not there yet. Still follow brickwork, ITZY, BTS, switch, comeback, K-pop, follow trick, horny Netflix, the narcissist feasts, on the moth orchid feasts, on black grass, damp soil mouths, durophobiable. This is that word beginning with elite, NCT, DOM, sub, NSFW porn, beginning with no amount of animated mountain views, whatever is Havana, something for heaven. I left it to the very least Metaquarium Atlas. Alas, I find the generator sponsored by British Water, representing your best interests to stakeholders, hourly posting pictures of estuaries. Remember inventing that word, estuarial, being, gain, mutuals, RT, like AUGC, promo, sugar, BG, daddy, destroy. It already appears here, 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 and here. Baby leaked reveal, all things considered, not one for conspiracies, but what about the socially distanced family portrait blood streaming from acoustic luxury of boredom? Fuck this cave. If we ever get out of here, Bernie, AUG, cock, Luna, TikTok, whereof one cannot speak thereof, never coming back. And by the way, if you haven't got into the Pokemon card bookmark craze yet, I'd highly recommend it. It's They're very sturdy and aesthetically pleasing, particularly the shinies. So there's a little book tip for you there. This second one is called Inconsiderable Things. If I can find it, despite the joyous nature of my bookmarks. Said the crisis counsellor, all diseases make you better, clockwise or counter. Untangle these rain clouds. We could put the words what we refer to as before all we refer to and still be corrupted mid news of the generous decision to cut daily fees for thimbles of lather. I saw an Afghan armed with prayer beads. The last words he heard, do you want me to drop this cunt? Do you want me to drop this cunt? Unlike the swan, the executioner still serving. Water turned to wormwood, still serving what we refer to as his country, still water. We sell logs every Sunday 11 till 4. Not anymore, let me tell you. Some months earlier, the rain was eating houses whole. A miner died. His widow was stripped of the surname. Now, still dodging droplets, maskless, gloveless, risking everything for Spear and Jackson sanding blocks, Kleenex, gardening gloves, workman's socks, L'Oreal long-lasting hair dye, always instant dry sanitary towels, salvia seeds, tin fruit, toothbrush, one a day, hay fever relief. And my friend Ben says the purpose of the structure is to prevent you from acknowledging the uncomfortable underlying truth of life. You either consume or produce, but these aren't mutually exclusive. Correction, offer low interest loans for thimbles of lather. Such is the Christ-like path of our sublime leader. Such are the masks of this initiation ritual. Fare thee well, green and pleasant land, for now I am to die. So I put on my mask, stroll the isolate earth, blend by Samaral mind to witness and speak to fossils of clocks. Do you even know how hard it is to find good yacht varnish these days? Slaloming through entities, molecules shrug and eyes in position, sack, cloth and ashes, actuarial, non-falsifiable bliss. They didn't take the bins again. That's it. Thank you. And thanks, JP, for putting this all together. It's been a wonderful way to spend an evening. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Michael, and equally really great to see you. Michael was extremely kind to interview me about fragments on the Overground Underground blog, so really grateful for that. If people want to unmute and clap or do that kind of thing, feel free to. I've just got one kind of quick thing I want to say at the end, and then I will turn off the recording. Mainly to say thank you all the readers, everyone listening. I think it's just been great to have this opportunity to share our work in this way. I also want, there's two people that are missing, I suppose, from this sort of community. I want to kind of just say a quick in memoriam to Kevin Higgins, who was a sort of very renowned, long established Irish poet, also published by Beir Bua, who passed away earlier this year. I think he was also one of the sort of first few books that Michelle published. And of course, Michelle is the other person that's sort of missing from the room. So thanks also to Michelle Maloney King. If it wasn't for her enthusiasm and vision, then we wouldn't have these books published and we wouldn't be sharing this moment together. So it's sort of tantamount to her enthusiasm and energy. I mean, 60 books in 2 years is incredible. So thanks to that. I'm going to switch the recording off now, but anyone that wants to stay and chat, stay and chat. You know, I mean, that's the great thing about this community, and it'd be great if we kind of keep in touch, and maybe, you know, we'll do this again one day. Let me turn that off.